Hey, everybody, welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. I've got a great guest for all of us today, Reverend Christine Hart Savage. And, here's what I want to talk about today. And this is what I want you to know. What the heck is it all about? Are we here for a purpose? And if you're thinking right now, I think I am or not, okay, it will come to you. Today's show will walk you through, are we here for a purpose? How do we know what it is? Is it elusive? How do I bring it into focus? Now, the reason this is so cool is that many of us, and I think when you hear from Reverend Christine Hart Savage, you're going to understand that a lot of us have periods in our life where things aren't clear. 30-year career as breathwork expert, metaphysical life coach. She has mentored thousands of people. She is an amazing speaker. Her work and her body of work, Soul Life Connection, brings all of the elusive pieces together. I get asked a lot, and here recently, how did I get from being in the streets of New York to where I am today? The answer is I had the help of a lot of people, and I had the help of a lot of people talking to me about this. Christine, it's great to have you.
It's great to be here, Dr. Pat. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Well, look, you have done it all. I mean, it's almost like I like to think about all of the great work you've done to help people, like this beautiful moving fractal video, right? It's all these moving pieces that somehow you see so beautifully and are able to show them as a piece of art rather than just fractals. But this thing about purpose, this is so seriously important. If we are here for a purpose, how do we know what it is? And I want to get to the people that don't think they have one too. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. That's a really important point because we all have a purpose. We all have a purpose. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners today will be thinking, what is my purpose? And that's what I did. I sort of always felt like I didn't fit into life, just did not fit when I was younger. And I used to think, what's it all about? I asked myself that question all the time. And in my teenage years, a lot, where I had a lot of issues and started to drink a lot, was very depressed and having anxiety attacks. And I just didn't get it. It's like, I don't get life. I just don't fit. Is there something wrong with me? Am I just dumb? I just don't get it. And of course, I did the right thing and got married at 19 and then had two children. And it didn't, life was busy and I still felt the same. And it wasn't until that marriage broke up, I actually left that marriage, and my children were 6 and 4. And then I went on after about 3 years and I met another man and I was so in love with him. I was so in love and I just thought, oh, this will really work. And he was from a different state to me in Australia. He was working up in Queensland. I'm in Melbourne in Australia. And we ended up together, cutting a long story short, because I passed him in the corridor one day at my company and he was down from Queensland. And as I walked past him, I'd never seen him before. As I walked past him, I had this thought, I'm going to marry that man. And I thought, oh my goodness, what a ridiculous thought to have. And then I met him at a conference and it was like love at first sight, head over heels. And then I didn't see him for 12 months. And then I met him again at the next annual conference. And he asked me to marry him. So we both moved states to a different state, New South Wales, Sydney in Australia. And it was hell. It was absolutely hell for that 3 years. So my children and I had moved away from the stability of my family, my friends, and, I just kept trying and trying and trying to make it work. And it just didn't. So we moved back to Melbourne, all of us, with my then husband as well, and tried to make it work here. But it was just hell. And he used to put up this black sheet across this sort of servery through from the kitchen to a dining room. And he lived in there for the last part of our marriage. And this black sheet was this black curtain was really something that I had to deal with in my life when we actually split. And it was quite an abusive relationship. and very, sort of malignant, sort of narcissist behaviors. And when that all crashed, I crashed and went into a major breakdown. And that question of what's it all about? Here I am, I just felt like I was going to die. And I think I would have if I didn't have the two kids to think about. So they kept me going. And this black curtain, I thought, no, this is a black curtain in my soul that I have to really deal with, because they wanted to put me into hospital on drugs. And for me, I knew that that was not the way. I'd get lost in the system. So that's when I learned to meditate, and I learned breath work. And in that breakdown time is when all of my purpose actually surfaced. Because in that really major time when I surrendered fully, because I had nothing left, Dr. Pat, nothing
Yeah.
left at all, suddenly I had this amazing experience of this, I still don't know what to call it, it's over 30 years ago, this amazing, like queen-like, radiant being above me that was just, I was connected to. And there were no actual words, but this communication of the most incredible love I have ever experienced. We don't have that sort of love on this earth.
Yeah.
And I knew, it was like I'd always looked for, I want to go home, but I didn't know what home was. And that experience was like going home.
Yeah.
And then I realized we are so much more than we know. It's incredible. So hence the purpose started. So I took 7 months out, and all I did was meditate, sleep, rest, meditate, sleep, rest. And at the time, I had to start cleaning up my life then. That's when things started to change, which I'd love to speak about as well.
Let's talk about it, because I love what you just shared, because I've done a number of shows, but there's like a trend here in the conversations, and I love this one. And I want to go visit something you said real quick, because all I kept thinking about is, oh my gosh, we had such parallel paths, although I didn't have two kids. When you're in a relationship with a narcissistic behavior person, you can't see the forest from the trees. And isn't it interesting about both of us? And I even had an SDE they don't call them near death. I had an SDE in that to try to wake me up. I still didn't wake up. And it took me years later, but I wasn't evolving. I could see my passion in the show. But once that was over, it's like something burst. It's like something showed up, and it was spiritual in nature. And isn't that what you're saying? That was something for you that allowed you to, I don't want to, I want to use the word vaporize.
Yeah. Okay.
Vaporize the black sheep. Kind of. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm making sense or not, but is that kind of what happened that helped guide you on a new pathway?
Absolutely. It's this whole realization that there's so much more to us. It's like a whole new dimension in my mind opened up, a feeling opened up, a connection to something much bigger than myself that was so important. And that sort of passion started to rise and bubble up, which was much more expansive than the fear that I was experiencing. So I was having major panic attacks, like really, really strong panic attacks. I didn't believe in myself, and in the marriage, I kept giving and trying harder and trying to be the best self I could be. But I was absolutely over giving constantly. It's like, what we focus on, we expand. But if you're focusing on something where you've got no boundaries, and you're not filling yourself first, you end up like this completely empty wreck, which is what happened. And you can't go on like that. So I had to go through this whole time of just rebuilding and re-giving to myself, which I did through meditation. But at the time, my children really suffered through this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they really did. And one of my children went through drugs really badly for 15 years. And that same one went through anorexia and was just so incredibly sick and skinny. And my other child has MS. And not that we knew that then, but there were things happening that we didn't understand. And he also had a tumor and was having brain hemorrhages and seizures. And they didn't pick up the seizures initially.
Mm.
So I had all of these pressures, and I had a boss who was really quite narcissistic as well, really controlling in the job I was doing. And in this absolute terrible marriage that I was trying to make it work. So I realized then I had to clean up everything. I had to clean up my own being, my soul, get into myself, rest, heal. I sold my house. I resigned from my job. I made all these major decisions in my life and took time out to look at what next. But it took a long time. It did take time in that recovery.
Yeah.
But then I had this incredible passion coming up, which is sort of where you were heading with the, this evaporation sort of thing. It's like the old life goes whoosh and it does disappear. And then this new life sort of opens up, or this new opportunity. But I must say, I think often when it's that way, the passion is so huge. So I wanted to help other people that were going through anxiety, stress, overwhelm, all of that sort of thing that was causing them problems, over giving, over everything, like over loving, over giving completely, and help them, and to know that there is another part to them that is absolutely dynamic and gorgeous and wonderful and beautiful that they're connected to. Or really, we're connected to it because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
But we have to clean up the
Yeah.
practical life.
And sometimes, here's what I think about, and I want to ask you this question, right? I want to talk about this idea that you're in a situation that is never going to work. There isn't anything you can do about it. And yet at the same time, you're there. And there's a part of it that you're there for, and you stay there because you're afraid of what you don't know. You're afraid of what would happen. But you and I have something interesting in common, right? Because had that relationship not ended the way it did for me, I don't think I would have moved on to really take the passion I had to help other people have a powerful voice. I don't think I would have gone to that next level, because it was only after that that I physically moved. And I've said this before. Here's Jessica, me, and Heather sitting in my new basement apartment, creating the network. But that had to end, right? Now, it doesn't mean that you and I have not understood our passion and purpose all along, but it became elusive because we had this other thing. You see, our purpose was overshadowed not by our passion pulling us forward, but by something overshadowing us to become the person we were meant to become. And I think that happens a lot for people, right? You had to have courage. I had to have courage. You had to overcome fear. I have to overcome fear on a regular basis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when we do, something happens, and people want to know, how do I align myself with my purpose? And do I have to go through a dark night to get there? But even more importantly, even if you don't go through a dark night, you are going to need the courage to take the leap, right?
Certainly. Definitely. Yeah. It does take courage to dig into that part of yourself, because there's usually some sort of fear around it. For some reason, there's usually fear around it. But I agree wholeheartedly that for you and I, we had to really go through that trauma, make a different decision, and move in a different direction to uncover what is our soul's journey. Because I do believe that we are born, it is innate. We are born with a particular pathway. And I think the shadows of the soul cover up everything that is there. So we do need to clear those shadows and work through them. And everyone has some shadows. And we all have these patterns and different traumas that we go through. Some are bigger than others, but everyone feels them. It's part of being human. So it's learning how to make those decisions that honor what we know underneath is right for us. And that's scary.
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm having a scary, interesting time. But because of the pathway we're on, we have a vision. Let's just call it a vision. And just like you, I know you've seen things. I know you've been guided. So let's just say that we're both guided. Maybe not by the same entity, but we are both guided. And, that guidance now, because I did vaporize things, you have vapor, because that's my word. I just love that vaporize word.
Good
But
word.
because we did that, things are just clicking in place easily, abundantly. We have 2 new producers. One of them started today, one of them 10 days ago, right? We're interviewing for additional staff. I mean, Jessica's running the show. And yet this morning, I stopped at my barista to get my little espresso shot, and I ended up doing a gratitude exercise with the woman that was giving me the drink. Why? I want to talk to you about this. Sometimes we know and we're called and we get afraid. Today, I was asked by someone who has his own show, very prominent guy, has a great show, right? I've known him for a while. And he said to me, Pat, when did you get so silent? Right? And you could tell I was like, what the bleep are you talking, right?
Yeah.
Long story short, he was right. It's not that I'm silent. It's that there are things that are important to me that you can hide behind a passion to avoid what action you really should be taking. And I want to talk to you about that, because let's move us forward about what does it mean to set the stage for our next big passion event to happen. Do we need the stars to align? Do we have to be over a certain age? I mean, certainly Greta Thunberg didn't think so with what she did, but what does it take to get us out of the can I use a metaphor? Away from the black curtain, right? To pull that curtain back and emerge. What have you found for yourself?
I think it's turning around, look, taking time every day to self-reflect. It's that self-reflection, going inside and saying, right, what is important here? What am I noticing? I think that daily reflection is vital. And then really feeling what it is that underneath, we know that we should be doing. And it's like, oh no, maybe it's not time to do that. It's a bit like me doing more speaking. One of my biggest fears in life was opening my mouth and speaking, like, kill me now. It was really bad. And it took me a long time. And I kept getting asked, oh, will you come on and speak about like Sacred Heart Mission, which is a big sort of charity group in Melbourne. Come and speak on the show, on the radio about it. And I thought, oh my goodness, can I do that? So the week beforehand, I was just in a total state. And I went on and I was so nervous. And the guy who was running it, the host, he was fantastic and he really helped me through it. And life kept pushing me into things. Will you come and speak? Will you be, will you lead the speaking at my party? Will you do this? Life sort of gives us these opportunities. So we say yes or no, but there's something innate in us that knows that's the pathway. And when you look back on your life, you can see the opportunities and the teachings, the grooming you to be the best you can be in a certain way. I do believe that life, you don't learn it out of a book. You learn it through life experience. So it's going inside and looking at what's the next stage. Often something will be coming up to a completion in life. And it's like, okay, something major might have happened or something minor.
Right.
And it's, well, where to now? And there's a gap. And you think, what's the next stage? I mean, we've got freedom of choice. We don't have to do these things. But once we step into something that is innate and part of our purpose, there's
Mhm.
a feeling of, I'd almost say happiness.
Yeah,
No, that's it's a fulfillment of the heart. And
totally.
yeah, and even if it's scary, it's like, okay, it's time. It's time to do that thing. And you just know it. But sometimes it might take us a couple of years to step into that next stage too.
It does, but that's what you did. I mean, let's talk about where you went to where you are now. Minister of Medical Physical Science. There's so much you have, there's so much you created. I mean, you went from that situation, got I call it scalable clarity, because
Right.
what's clear
Yeah.
to me today, it just kind of piles on. But now you offer certificate courses. Well, let's talk about from there, curtains down, pathways open, you've got a clean canvas, and now you step out and you create. Tell people what you created. And by the way, for people here, they can find out about you at your website, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can send them to soullifeconnection.com.
Yes.
Uh, but here you are today. And now you've taken that blank canvas and you've painted something. Tell us what you've painted so that now you can live your passion.
Yes. Well, it's quite exciting, really. So I got into the field over 30 years ago of really helping people. So I became a breath worker. I'm a breathwork trainer. So that takes in breath awareness and breath work, which is a deeper therapy type of breathing. So I've done that clinically for 30 years. And life skills. So just teaching people everything I learned, I would put down in a format. I'm a great one with pictures. I think we learn a lot by pictures. I always say I didn't go to kindergarten, so I draw really bad pictures all the time. So I would always draw things up and people would say, can I take a photo of that? And it would be a mess in the end with all the layers of the teachings, but it meant something to them. So I did that like clinically, and I've done it for groups and for corporate groups over the years, but mainly clinically. And then COVID hit and I thought, oh boy, I'm not allowed to see any clinical clients. And I thought, what does this mean for me and my work and helping people, supporting people? So I decided to learn how to do it online courses. Oh my goodness, that was a journey because I am so not technical at all. So I learned and I've put the courses online. So I made all these courses and worked really hard. And what I do now is I've split them up into 3 groups. So I've got 3 trainings so that the whole lot is a complete program, and it teaches people how to breathe. It teaches people how to think. It teaches people about feelings and emotions and why we get in this state, why we have panic attacks, why we experience anxiety and depression, what's happening energetically with polluting ourselves with the thoughts, with the feelings. It actually builds up in the physical flesh of the body. And the really interesting, this is going to sound very weird. Can I get a bit metaphysical through experiences, Dr. Pat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. In my meditations and breath work, I was often shown this sort of, I call it a cosmic screen. This screen, and it was like I was on the screen, I was it was me, and it was very holographic. And I was shown cells and shown energy and shown the density that builds up or the pollution that builds up in the cell through emotional charge. I could see it on the screen, really large, like magnified, like you get an iPhone and open up a picture. So I was shown all these levels, but I could feel it in my own body and see it in my own body at the same time. And it's like I had this incredible education about light, cells, energy. And that's what I started to teach and
Mm,
draw pictures of. And that's all in the programs, and how we can actually release that, because we need to release that. It's really low vibrational frequency.
yeah,
It's dense energy, and we can actually release that. The breath is one of the easiest ways to do that too, because
yeah,
we don't realize what gift we've got with our breathing.
yeah.
Our breathing
Athletes do it
has,
all the time. They don't quite learn what the technique, but some of them do. They are able to slow their heart rate down. I mean, have
Yep.
you ever watched basketball players and ask yourself, man, if that were me, I'd be huffing and puffing. Why? Why don't they? Well, they've learned how to breathe, and they've learned how to breathe in the way that you're talking about. But
Yeah.
part of that, and maybe on the next show we'll do together, we'll talk about this, because when you do that and you're able to slow your heart down and you're able to get that sense of peace. See, that's the thing that I think of.
Yeah.
It, even if it's for a scant second, you feel it in every part of your body and you want
Yeah.
more. You
You
want
bet.
more. And that's the work you're doing to help people. Um, First of all, let me thank you for today. I would love to know your closing message. What do you want to leave us with here today? Because we're going to be doing much more of this. Of course, your show. Um, but thank you for reminding us how simple the resolution could be, but how complex the situation may be. Thank you for doing that. What's your personal message? What would you like to leave us with today?
Today, anyone who's really, really down and out and suffering, have hope, because that hope, it's so important to have that hope. There is a way forward. There really is a way forward. And you can learn some skills, and bit by bit, you will heal this pollution, they're just these shadows to the soul. They can be shifted, and then something new opens up, and it's already inside you. And I've got goosebumps because I feel so strongly. Some people are suffering so much,
Yeah,
and I used to too. So did you, Dr. Pat. And there is hope. Look at both of us. There is hope. Some
yeah,
people think, yes, but I can't do that. Yes, you can.
yeah,
We're no different.
yeah,
We
yeah,
are no different.
yeah,
And
yeah,
to look back in your life and say, okay, what's my life been showing me? And we can speak about this another time, because I think it's important about purpose. When you really get to see it clearly, oh my goodness, I can see along the path it's been showing me all the time. I just wasn't seeing it. So the main thing is today, have hope. Learn to breathe. Learn to breathe is number one, because that is such an anchor for your life. Yeah, so that's my gift. And look at what's great in your life, because there's always something. You mentioned gratitude before,
yeah,
and something I practice all the time, and I know you do too.
yeah, I
So
do.
it's yeah, it's so vital. There's so much to be thankful for. But thank you so much. That half an hour went so
It
fast,
went
Dr.
so fast, but we're going to be doing lots more, having many more conversations. But thank you for today, because I so want people to walk away from this and not give up on themselves. And see, that's what you helped us with today. You never gave up on yourself, you never gave up on your children. And even though we go through bumps in the road, when we get that glimmer, that feeling, that thing you and I can't explain, that puts a little bit extra, a little bit of a stomp in our step.
Yeah,
We get to live another day in joy. Thank you so much for all that you do.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Pat.
Reverend Christine Hart Savage, everyone, soullifeconnection.com. Check it out. Uh, when you get there, go check out her social media, look at the courses she's offering, the coaching she's offering. And that invitation to you is so purposefully and beautifully said. You don't have to do this alone. We'll see you next time.